during the debate. He did exactly what she wanted him to do. The prosecutor versus the convicted felon. This is Tyrone Bowman live. Vice President Harris caused the Republican nominee Donald Trump to get angry tonight because she wanted to show the world, at which she succeeded at, that he does not have the temperament to lead this nation. So the headline reads, according to MSNBC, Trump gets big mad at the debate, just like Harris planned. The Republican nominee's temperament was exactly the scenario that his advisors were reportedly worried about. Just like a leopard cannot change his spots, he cannot change who he is. Former President Donald Trump's volume slowly but surely up over the first hour, or ratcheted up over the first hour of the debate on Tuesday. He started off relatively calm, but as Vice President Kamala Harris needled him on his rallies, his standing in the world, and his legal troubles, he eventually blew up. There was no sign of him calming down as the debate hit the home stretch, and as a result, his answers began falling apart, drifting into the same disjointed, incoherent ranting that Harris invited people to watch at his rallies. You can't change who you are. You can try to stick to a script, but deep down on the inside, when you loathe to just insult people, when you loathe to belittle people, when you loathe to verbally castrate people, you are he's so condescending to women, has no respect for them. And eventually, the real him came out to the surface. Eventually, he lost his temper. Because when she started talking about his legal troubles, his legal woes, he couldn't handle it, which were factual. When she started talking about the size of his pretentious made-up rallies with paid actors carrying brand new signs and stuff around, he couldn't handle it. When she started talking, he became extremely incoherent, disjointed. The ramblings of a senile 78-year-old, soon to be 79-year-old man who thinks he's stable enough and coherent enough to lead America in the 21st century. No, he's not. It's to the Democratic nominee's credit that her team has been telling the press for days now that her strategy was to push Trump's buttons enough that he loses focus, just like putty in her hands. And it worked. He fell into the trap. Just like Biden methodically, he strategically waited until the Republican convention was over. And he stole the spotlight, he stole the thunder from the Republican nominee. And what did he do? He dropped out of the 2024 presidential race. Thus, his nominating Vice President Kamala Harris was historic in itself. She's a woman, and she's a woman of color. And if you all think that he's just going to roll over top of her in November, and listen, I don't believe all that garbage about the polls are tightening up. That is just political garbage and crap. The polls are not tightening up. He's lagging in the polls and going to continue to lag in the polls. After this debate, she's going to soar. Her and Walz are going to continue to soar. And they're going to crisscross this country. And they're going to win this election. So that's exactly what we saw during the debate as she kept her poise, the straight smirk on or buffled face aside, and stuck with her talking points and digs. In contrast, Harris brushed off all of the Republican nominee's attacks, leaving him to bluster even harder at her and the moderators alike. He thought he was going to humiliate her. All this garbage and all this talk. I'm coming into Philadelphia. I'm going to end her campaign. I'm going to put an end to this blah, 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 blah. That's all it was. Garbage. Talk. Harris ain't going nowhere but to the White House. It's also exactly the scenario that his advisors were reportedly worried about. with her boss showing up angry and raving versus the hopes that he might, against the odds, actually focus on Harris's policies. Even when he tried to do so on Tuesday, there was simply no following his train of thought, as he lacked a thought line to come at her, because she had an answer for every statement that he could make. She can hold her own. As a prosecutor, she held her own. As an attorney general, she held her own. As a senator, she held her own. As the first female vice president and first black female vice president of the United States of America, she has been holding her own. So whether y'all like it or not, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are in the race to stay. Stupid J.D. Vance is someplace spewing out lies about Haitian migrants, spewing out lies about them eating dogs and rats and cats and water bugs and all that kind of stuff. Just outlandish lies. That's all they do on that side is lie. Before the debate ensued on tonight, he demanded that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, have a governmental shutdown. Johnson said, no, we're not going to listen to you this time, because all it does is embolden and strengthen the Democratic Party. That's all it does. And you all have not learned yet. You're going to continue to go down. Remember the Pied Piper. Remember the fairy tale, the story about the Pied Piper. Go read the book for yourself. Harris called him weak and wrong on national security, throwing the numerous people who worked for him, who have endorsed her, into his face. And as I wrote earlier, even with his mic muted, when it's not his turn, there was no shortage of wild things coming out of his mic when it was his turn to speak. He just can't behave himself. He's uncontrollable. He's unhinged. He's an emotional wreck. And you all are afraid to tell him because you're afraid of his temper. But who you are, the real you lives with you 24 hours a day, no matter who you are, and the real you will come to the surface eventually. You can run, but you can't hide. See, it doesn't matter. You can spew all the lies you want on Truth Social. I let you come on this show. I allow your comments to come. I could easily turn the comments off if I chose to, but I really don't care. I know you're full of bitterness. I know you're full of hate. I know there are bigots and racists who constantly come to Tyrone Bowman Live. And it doesn't bother me because I don't give a damn. Straight up. I don't care. Your comments don't move me. Your comments don't hurt me. Baby, I'm from the hood. We insulted each other every day growing up. You haven't said anything that I can't handle. I am tough. Hardcore. I don't forget about all this. I know who I am. Now let's get back to unhinged Trump falling apart during the debate. This was probably the worst performance that Trump could have turned out for anyone who was still unsure whether he has the temperament to return to the White House. The answer is nah, he does not. You talk about Biden's dismal performance. What about this train wreck tonight? What about this emotional carnage tonight? What about the unhinged candidate tonight? What about the man that had diarrhea of the mouth and just couldn't shut up and show some decency and respect? But when that's who you really are, that's what you continue to do continuously and consistently over and over again. So there you have it. Harris's strategy worked. She caused Donald Trump to lose his temper, and he fell right into the prosecutor's trap. Works every time. Never surrender. Never quit. All right, MAGAites. Thank you so much for joining me on the program tonight.